Okay, so I've changed the image slightly to make it a little bit more informative to where we'll be going throughout these lectures, and I will be swapping back and forth between EVE-NG and GNS3. Now, one unfortunate thing about GNS3 is you're not able to do the image overlay like you map the nodes to specific devices like you can in EVE-NG, but of course you can only do that in EVE-NG Pro or in PNet, and not everyone uses that. So we'll swap back and forth from time to time using both GNS3 and the EVE-NG so you can get the flavor of using both of these. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to concentrate on P1, P2, P3, P4 and P5. So we've already enabled our tunnel services on our FPC0 PIC 0. So what we need to do now is create our logical systems. So what we do, we'll jump onto the command line and we'll have a look at that. So let's bring up our terminal. Okay, so as we can see on the diagram, we're only using one VMX and I have 4 PCs connected there to simulate the 4 PCs in the diagram. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's do a quick show configuration. And as we can see, we have our root authentication and we have our FPX interface, and that's it. We have nothing else configured on this. So let's get cracking. Let's move this up to the side a bit. Not that it makes much of a difference. I still can't see. I'll have to go back and forth between them. Okay, not to worry. So configuration mode, and let's do, might have had something still there. Okay, let's do edit logical systems and do a question mark, and it's asking you for the name of whatever logical system you want. So we're going to do P1, and now we're into the P1 hierarchy for the logical systems, and let's set the loopback first. So set interface LO0.1 family inet address 1.1.1.1/32. Fantastic. And because we'll eventually be doing some routing protocols, let's set our router ID as well. So set routing options, router ID. Fantastic. All right, so we've got the basic done now. So we have our loopback, we have our routing options already set. Now what we need to do is we need to start setting our logical tunnels. So let's scroll down. So the logical tunnel is going to be between P1 and P2. It's going to be LT000.1. So let's get that configured first. So set interface. So logical tunnel 0/0/0.1. Oopsie daisy. Okay, silly me. Looks like I assumed wrongly that I'd enabled the tunnel services. If I scroll up, okay, so the tunnel services is there. So chassis FPC PIC tunnel services. Let's have a quick look to double check that it is enabled. And let's do a show. Let's do a run show. Interface terse match LT. Okay, so we have LT000. Okay, so that's fine. Let's try that again then. So edit logical systems PE1, set interface LT 0/0/0. unit 1, because that's what we're using. We're using unit 1, scroll down there, and now we need to set its encapsulation. So encapsulation, if you do question mark, you now have the option of doing Ethernet. If you want to do bridging, you can do Ethernet bridging. If you just want to do VLANs, you can do VLANs, but in this case we're going to do Ethernet. Fantastic. So we're going to do the same unit 1, we're going to do family INET address, and it's going to be 10.10.routers1 to 2.1/24. Brilliant stuff. Okay, and let's do a description. So description, link to PE2. Now, what you need to do to bind these tunnels together, you need to put its peer unit, so what unit it's going to peer with. So we're going to do the same thing here. So set interfaces LT000 unit 1, peer unit is going to be unit 2. Now if we do a show, so under the logical systems we can see we have our LT001 000.1 interface, we have our description, our encapsulation is Ethernet, we're peering with unit 2, and we have our IP address, of course we have our loopback address, and we have our routing ID. So if we want to set up OSPF or BGP or so, then we've got our router ID there. Now, we can't commit this at this stage. It will give us an error because we've not configured peer unit 2 on the other side. So we need to configure that before we can commit. So what happens if you try to do any committing when you've done a peer unit and the other side is not configured, it will error out. So let's do top, and let's do edit logical systems PE2. So now we're in the PE2 hierarchy, and we can do set interface LT 0/0/0 unit 2 encapsulation Ethernet, and we're going to do description, and it's going to be link to PE1, and now we're going to do our family of INET, and the address is 10.10.routers1 to 2.2/24, and now we need to do our peer unit. So this side now is going to be peering with unit 1, and let's do our loopback since as we're here. So LO0.2 family INET address 2.2.2.2/day2, and set routing options, router ID, and it's going to be 2.2.2.2. Okay, not with a full stop on the end. Okay, great stuff. Let's do a show, and we have our LT, our logical tunnel unit 2. We have our peer unit, so it's peering with unit 1. We have our IP address. We have our encapsulation as Ethernet. We have our loopback address, and we have our routing options set for future. Okay, so do a show pipe compare. Excellent. Okay, so it looks like it's going to add our logical systems P1 and all of our interfaces, and it's going to add our logical system PE2 with all of our interfaces as well when we commit. Let's do a commit check to make sure everything's okay, and it succeeds. Let's do commit and quit. Great stuff. All right, so we now have our logical tunnel set up between P1 and P2. So P1 is logical tunnel 000.1, P2 is 000.2. They both have the encapsulation of Ethernet. Tunnel 1 is peering with tunnel 2, and tunnel 2, vice versa, is peering with tunnel 1. So we should be able to ping across. So let's do ping, and the IP was 10.10.12.2. It's not working. Okay. Right. So let's have a look at the routes table. Okay, so we have no routes. We've just configured two loopback addresses and two interface addresses, but they're not showing up in the routing table. Reason being is, as briefly touched on in the first video of the series, we have logically split this router into multiple routers. So as far as the Juniper is concerned, these are all separate. So what we need to do, we need to have a look at the route tables on the individual logical system. So if I do again now show route and do a logical system PE1, now we see the loopback and we see the link between P1 and P2. The same as if we wanted to ping across now, we should be able to ping, let's do 10.10.12.2, and we need to tell it what table to use, or what to use. So it's going to be logical system PE1, and let's see what happens with that. And there we go, going through absolutely fine. And let's cancel that. Okay, now this can be a little bit awkward if you're having to keep remembering what logical system you need to be in. So what you can do, you can change the actual CLI. So if I do set CLI logical system PE1, now as far as this device is concerned, the output, I am actually now logged into PE1's control plane. So now I can just do ping 10.10.12.2. Don't have to worry about putting any logical system because I'm already logged into the logical system. If I do a show configuration, oops, all we can see is the configuration for this particular router for PE1. We can't see any of the other configuration on there because we're logged into the logical router. Now, if we want to get out of this particular CLI mode, it's clear CLI logical system, and now we're back to the main router. And again, I can do exactly the same thing. I can do set CLI logical system PE2, and now we're onto PE2, show configuration, and we can see our loopback address of PE2 and the rest of our configurations. Now, one thing worthwhile making a note of is if you're adding interfaces, if you're going to add an interface, you would add the interface under the global table, so the global CLI. So let's get out of this. So you do it on the global CLI, you'd add the interfaces themselves, but once the interfaces are added to the logical system, you can then log into the logical system and do all your routing options. You can do all your routing protocols, everything else you can do straight from there. You don't have to go into edit logical system PE1 or PE2, etc. You can just log straight into that logical system using the CLI command, and then you can start configuring directly from there. So as we've seen so far, we've nice and easy, we've configured PE1 to PE2, and we can confirm that we can ping back and forth between them. And we've also seen that all the routes and the configurations for them are not shared whatsoever. They are their own logical domains. So in the next video, we'll start configuring the rest of the core. So we'll do PEs 3, 4, because we have a few bits to do, and we'll do the core. And then once we've confirmed connectivity amongst everything else, we'll have a look at maybe implementing like maybe OSPF or ISIS, or maybe both. See you in the next vid.